Hi guys. Hi, Zainab. All right. Oops. Awesome. Hi guys. Waiting for Zainab. Hi. Good. How are you?
I made it in like due time.
I know. I know. Oh my gosh! I see your Bernie poster in the background.
And then there's a flyer. I forgot what they're called.
Oh my.
Literature
Oh
right there.
my god! Oh my god! I love it! I love it! I have mine up here, but I can't move my phone, or it's just all gonna go
I'll
down.
take your word for it.
How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking.
Of course, of course. Okay. So for people that don't know you, we want you to tell us your name, your age, and where you go to school.
Well, my name is Zainab. I'm 16. I'm almost 17. In like 25 days, I'm gonna be a dancing queen officially. And I go to Fortson High School. I'm a rising senior. So
Awesome, awesome. She's such a queen. One of the comments so far. I love your friends. They're so cute. So before we talk about the initiatives that you're working on, because you're working on some really impactful things in the community, I want you to just talk a little bit about why and when you started your work with racial justice.
so racial justice to me has always been something that like was close to home. Um, and it wasn't something that like I really knew exactly why. It was just a bunch of series of events that like was internalized that made me the way that I am. And you know, it takes a while. It's something that I'm still like learning every day about, but it really began when my dad passed away when I was 9 years old, and it was really because of systematic racism. What we do to refugees in America is shame them. Um, I said this to you, like Jamal Bowman said, poverty isn't accidental; it's something created. Um, and with my father, he died prematurely at the age of 46 because of systematic racism. He was working days on end and would not come home because he just needed to provide for his family. We were living in Detroit at the time, and for a refugee, you know, he was working so much, and he escaped war, and he was kind of just like shamed into a job that wasn't treating him right. So he died on the job, and it wasn't something that like I thought of, but it was something I internalized, and as a result, it was just something that I became more dedicated to, and something that I want to dismantle in America, honestly.
Thank you for sharing. The community is very lucky to have you. So I want you to talk about your first initiative that you're working on in terms of police and racial justice, and also the story of Frederick Finley. If you can kind of talk about that too.
Yeah, so I was at a protest in Dearborn. I think it was like the first protest in Dearborn. And one of the most amazing women from the ACLU was there with a poster of two people that died of police brutality in Dearborn. And I just couldn't remember the name. It was like days later, I couldn't remember the name. And I was just like trying to find people's names. And I was like searching up Dearborn man police killed. And I found this article from 2000 before I was even born. And it was talking about Frederick Finley. I read the article, and it was like one of those like HTML pages that was super old before like the internet even was like a big thing and everyone had it. And I read it, and it was very, very, very similar to George Floyd's. And I was reading this. I was on a call with my friend Hannah, and we were just like, "What the hell? This is literally the worst thing that could ever happen." It was in Dearborn. It was a man named Frederick Finley who was killed by a security guard who worked at Lord and Taylor's at Fairlane Mall. The security guard followed Frederick Finley and his stepdaughter outside and accused Frederick Finley's stepdaughter of stealing something worth $4. That was something he thought was worth killing a black man for. It was taken to trial, and it was taken to trial in Dearborn. The judge here in Dearborn, she passed away, but she said that there was insufficient evidence to rule that Frederick Finley was murdered by the security guard because he had a heart condition. So when the security guard choked him, they said that it was insufficient. But no, this is our reality. This is our history in Dearborn, and it's not something that we highlight. We always call ourselves a diverse place, a place for people of color and white people and just everyone. But this is something that happened here, and it still happens here every day. We just don't experience it, maybe, but it's something that happens, and we just have to highlight it. And I decided to post it on my Instagram to just sort of show everyone that this is a reality. We have to acknowledge it, and we have to learn from it.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy when you were telling me the story yesterday. I was shook because you don't think those things happen in Dearborn. You don't think that. You think we know police brutality is a thing. We know that it's rampant throughout the country, but to hear a story that's so similar to something that's happening right now that we were just floored with, like the entire nation was just like. And then I guess my question is too now, how many more things have happened in Dearborn that we don't know about? I mean, it was 2000 at the time. I was 5, so it's like but recently, what kind of cover-ups happen, or what kind of things happen where insufficient evidence is the case, but it's like really insufficient evidence?
Yeah, definitely. And at the protest, the chief came out because we called for him. We literally had to be like, bring your chief, chant it for him to be there. And when he came there, he was like, we allowed this to happen. We allowed this protest to happen. Okay. And he was talking about the number of arrests Dearborn police made. Somebody from the crowd yelled, how many of those arrests were Black people? And he said, we don't know that. But you do. It's your department. You know that. So it's just like, we have to hold our police accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like the initiative that I wanted to start. And as a collective, people in Dearborn are like, we need to make change. Audubs need to stand up for this because we do have power in this community. We take up 50%. Non-Black Audubs have to stand up and sort of form an allyship with Black Audubs and Black people. So it's just like, we have to see which of those arrests are Black people. How many of those arrests are Black people? How many of those stops are Black people? But even after that, we aren't counted as Audub, we're counted as white. So we have to find that. We have to make a number for us. We have to find what we can be categorized as, because MENA is not officially a race. So we have to try as much as possible to put pressure on the police department to demand transparency, to demand to see those numbers, and to demand a social change. Not focus on punishment, but focus on reformation. Because even to a certain extent, reformation is not going to change everything. We do need to also demand our power as people. It's people, not prisons, people, not police. We need to move our community to rebuild our community. And I'm just hoping that the community would be willing to support with this, and just sort of everyone put their effort, because this is what needs to be done. It needs to be with the community. It needs to be everyone putting pressure into our elected officials.
You're right.
We're here.
You're right. And we're here and we're not going anywhere. And the government, the police, they all need to be working for the people and by the people. And it's like, this should not be something that we're consistently begging for. Like, this should be a given. So I guess my question is, how can people get involved with this? Where can we go to for more information? And like, what's your ask of the community as well?
Literally just shoot me a text. There's also this grassroots law group that is having like a summer work collective to teach people how to organize in their own communities, how to get cops out of their schools and stuff. And they also have ties to people in Detroit and in Ann Arbor. So if we can have Dearborn put on there, it'd be amazing. They still don't have a collective group of people there from Dearborn. There's like 250. Their first meeting was today. They had 250 people on a Zoom call talking about setting a goal, talking about what a goal means, and how to put pressure into our police and how to put pressure into our elected officials. So just shoot me a text. I can send you all the information about grassroots projects and about this project.
Awesome. We'll put your contact information on our story later for people, and then even in like the episode description, so people can get a hold of you. So I guess with that, like, so when it comes to racial justice, specifically with police, specifically with like moving forward as a community, what are your hopes for Dearborn besides like transparency and like what do you want to see? And I think as obviously you can't speak for all of Gen Z, but like what are conversations happening in your circles too and things like that?
I guess like the conversations I've been having with my friends a lot is how do we feel like we've done enough? Um, a lot of what I've been feeling recently is guilt because I feel like I'm never doing enough. So just feeling like we're never gonna be full of justice because we're not gonna be perfect. We're never gonna be perfect. So just always constantly feeling like we have to do more and we have to be better. Um, because like I said, Dearborn's not. It is considered like a diverse place, but it's not the best, and we need to make sure that we're going to continue and have those uncomfortable conversations, especially with the older generation that right now have the power. Even though Gen Z is like 25%, we still don't have the age demographic to make up the power. So we need to make sure that we're taking our voices and we're taking it to these adults and we're demanding change and we're demanding us be heard.
You're right. I mean, I think everybody can go through the process of unlearning and the process of growing and the process of constantly holding ourselves accountable, especially when it comes to older generations too, because it's like it we have access to all of this information, and we always say this thing where our parents' generation and the older generation, they had to survive. They had to come here and they had to survive, but with our generation, we have the privilege of self-actualizing. And when we say like self-actualizing, it's like we get to be the change that we want to see. So it's just it's definitely on us. Like at this point, it's definitely on us.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, I've been seeing a lot of youth rise up, and it's something that I've been wanting for a while. Um, and we're demanding our spaces, even when we don't get our space. If we like run into a brick wall, we're gonna go to another person, and we're gonna try there. That's what I want to see. That's what I like. What needs to happen? If you something stops you, an adult stops you, which often happens because of your age, go through someone else. Don't stop.
Yeah. No, I love hearing that. So when people so you just keep going. So I guess like my question is when people tell you, because I'm sure based on age, like which is ridiculous half the time, because it's like anyone that can listen to you talk knows that like you know what you're talking about. So it's like what do you I guess like what's your advice to the younger generation who might have hesitation when talking to their peers or even their grandparents and parents?
That I have a 20%. That's something
Oh wait,
good.
yeah, I think you cut off for a sec, but I think we're good.
That's something that's difficult because I know, like, there's a boundary between respect and having those conversations. But um, for me, like, personally, with my mom, is just like telling her about what this movement means for us because of the civil rights movement in the 60s. It opened up the Immigration Act of 1965 that allowed my dad to come here as a refugee and not as a minority. Um, and just like explaining it to her that this fight is our fight. It's not on us versus them. This fight is for us. And just like making sure that she knows why I'm so dedicated to this. Most of the times, our parents just don't understand. Like you said, it's like we're given privilege to self-actualize. They come from countries where sometimes they couldn't get their full education. My mom had to stop going to school at 7th grade because of the war that was going on. So she just doesn't know. So just sitting down and explaining it to her and just talking to her. And sometimes it does not go as I like. Sometimes it doesn't go right at all. It goes into arguments, but it's a process, and it's something that I've been learning myself. So I'm not like I'm not the best person at it. Just making sure that you know she knows that like it's something that's about me. It's something that's about all of us. It's human. It's about sometimes connecting it to our religion, connecting it to Islam, saying that us not standing up is un-Islamic, and just making sure that like she realizes that this movement is not a moment, but it's a movement.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're definitely right. I think it's definitely good for us all to sit back and like reflect on everything you just said too. Um, so I kind of want to change gears a little and talk about what you're working on with Dearborn Public Schools.
Okay, so
So if
that's
you want to talk about that project.
so we started a mental health initiative with my club at 14. It's called 14 Club of Political Science, and it's been a year process. We've begun at the beginning of the year, and just to create trauma-informed schooling, because we have students that come from war, and we have like an influx of students that come from war. So just like put that on top of counselors place that are working to schedule students that have a ratio of counselors to students 420 to 1, whereas the NDE asks to be 250 to 1. That's very, very sorry. Is that glitching or is that just me?
Oh no, I think
That's
you just
really
cut
weird.
out.
Is it good?
No, you just cut. You're like frozen. Is it me or is it you?
Is it good?
Now we're good. I can see you. Oh wait, now I can't hear you. Oh no. Oh, okay. Well, maybe she'll come back because I was getting really good. But if anyone has questions, please put them in the comments. Yeah. Oh, cool. She's coming back now. But yeah, you guys, put any questions you have.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, you're back.
Sorry,
Okay.
I don't know what that was.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so we just kind of been asking for trauma-informed schooling, which trauma-informed schooling, for those that don't know, is a focus on students' mental health in all parts of schooling, and focusing on what students need personally to just promote equity in our schools. Our counselor to student ratio, our student to counselor ratio is 420 to 1, whereas the MDE recommends, is 250 to 1.
Okay.
That's a big gap. And especially in a school that has predominantly people of color, that allows more systematic racism, it all kind of just like works in itself. It's a big issue, and we have people that come from war. We have people that are really stressed about going to college, and just because it doesn't seem like the person does have a mental illness that they just don't know about, they could just be someone that is high functioning, that goes through life dealing with it in their own way, and it just like kind of putting it back. And we started as students because we realized that this was an issue within ourselves. We realized this was an issue within our peers. And we've heard so many stories of how our friends asked for help and couldn't get it. We conducted a survey of 105 students from freshmen to high school, or from freshmen to seniors, and the results that we got were just heartbreaking. Somebody was talking about our link crew, so like big fish, small fish. They're in link crew, so they said that one of their freshmen showed them pages and pages of negativity talking about harming themselves and suicide, and they brought it up to a counselor, a social worker. They brought it up to a social worker, and the social worker said that the person seemed fine. Huge issue. They dismissed someone's threats. They dismissed someone's cries for help and said it seemed fine. That is not okay. And we just got so many results that we said, okay, we can go somewhere with this. So now we're just trying to garner as much support as we can. We have access behind us, luckily. We have political figures behind us. We have, right now, hopefully we're working with school board president Sandberry behind us, inshallah. And we're just trying to get this implemented, because during the coronavirus, this is something that needs to happen, especially when people are at home. Domestic abuse violence cases have risen. Domestic abuse calls have risen because of the economic state that we're in currently. It's trying to tie together with the economic state. Yeah, I said that right.
Yeah.
1 in 15 children are eyewitnesses to this violence. 1 in 15 means 1 or 2 in a classroom. That is far too many. We just don't know about it because even then it's connected to the police almost, where women just don't feel comfortable calling the police. And 40% of police officers are domestic abusers themselves, and it's just like a cycle that continues.
Yep.
So we thought about what we can control and what we have a stake in, which is our school. And trauma-informed schooling is the way to go for this.
So essentially you guys are asking for implementation of more like counselors on staff, or like what would it look like logistically?
So what we would want is, we have a whole plan, and our plan is actually going to be saving money for the district. We research computerized scheduling programs, and if anyone has taken Henry Ford or dual enrollment classes that's in high school, or if you're in college yourself, you know that you sign up for classes online. That's what we're asking for in our high school level, because I think like high schoolers are competent enough to do that. And so what we're asking for is the counselors to not work as schedulers, but work as counselors. And counselors would like to do that themselves too, actually, when they were asked. Move that out of their plate so they could focus on their students. And what we've asked access to do is just support us as we take mental health screenings of students. Mental health screening it's free, it's online. We can literally just have a student sit in a counselor's office, take it without the counselor looking, or just take it in a classroom online. It's super simple, super easy. It takes like 5 minutes tops, and we get to know what the student has, what the counselor should be looking for in that student, and how the counselor can help them. So it's just like literally it's cost effective, it's free, it's helping us, it's saving money, it's just like it's what we need. And I don't know why it can't be implemented right now. Like right this second.
It makes no sense why it wouldn't be a thing in the first place too, especially working with a community organization that's already doing all of this too. And you're right, there's so many different implications of our Arab Muslim population that other schools don't necessarily have to think about. And I think it's so hard sometimes for us because we don't feel like we get to ask for these things. So like the fact that you guys are going forward with this is amazing. But what's Dearborn Public Schools, what's the reception been? I'm just wondering.
Well, it's something that we've kind of, like I've said earlier, if we run into a wall, we just kind of move on and go to someone else. The response sometimes has been heartbreaking. It's something that kind of makes us lose motivation at certain points, but we realize that this is bigger than us, and we just have to kind of move on and go to somebody else that can help us, and just try to get anybody that would listen to help us, basically.
So how can people assist you with this project then?
We have a petition to show that people in the community support this. So literally just signing the petition takes 2 seconds, literally 2 seconds. Just press OK, sign, and showing that people in the community care about this and want this done. There's power numbers, so literally just signing in the petition would be amazing.
Awesome. We'll put that in our link tree too, so anybody that's listening, once we get off of this, you can easily access that. But somebody wrote in the comments, anything else I could do?
Right now it's all good.
You gotta take it good.
Yeah, but we'll definitely keep everyone posted on my Instagram page and whatever platform we can use.
That's awesome. Seriously, this initiative is amazing. I don't know if you've been looking at the comments, but people are just like, we need this. There was one question: how does racism play out at schools like Fortson?
Well, we kind of have a tone-deaf approach to education. We have trained people that come train our educators, not from the community. And they come in, and we have so many layers behind our culture, like hygiene, medicine, are the differences between people that identify as male and people that identify as female, women and men. There's so many cultural differences that other communities don't have. And for someone to come in and try to train our educators not knowing this, is harmful to us because it's forcing us to kind of assimilate. It's forcing us to ignore who we are and try to become someone that we're not.
Yeah.
That's like the biggest issue that I have in our education system.
So why do you find, because I think this is like an overarching theme in Dearborn too, not to bring this up, but like kind of the whole situation with the signs about shawarma, it's like, why don't people feel like we can ask members of the community what we need and what we want? And I think it's just like community building 101 when you think about it too. And it's just like, why is there such a deep disconnect between asking the community what we need and just doing it for us, which no one wants?
Well, Chief Haddad is the only person of color that's been appointed that in Dearborn public officials. The rest have all been elected. So I think for people, for Arab in Dearborn, we're not given that spaces unless we take it. So it's just been difficult for people to take it because you just don't feel like it's your spot. That's like, when I heard that, it was just crazy to me because we make up 50% of the population, yet that is the only person. The rest have all been elected. There's a demand for us. There is a demand for us. When you see it in the public sphere of people elected, there is a demand. But it's just like, we're not given the opportunity. We're not given it by other people in Dearborn. And we need to take it. We need to accept it. We're not going to take a tone-deaf approach to our public officials. We're not going to take a tone-deaf approach to Dearborn at all. And we need to just acknowledge that we have people of color in this community. Mm-hmm. But another thing I wanted to add on was kind of just like us, Arab, I'm going to like make us annoyed, is what we like to do is assimilate instead of acknowledge it. I'm going to put Suzanne DeBaja on blast here. But Suzanne DeBaja, I remember once going to my first city council meeting, and it was just like something I wanted to go to. And she said Ramadan instead of Ramadan. And she's an Arab woman. She's a Lebanese Arab woman. She could have said Ramadan. Yeah. She could have said it with an accent, said it like proudly with her Arab tongue, but she said Ramadan. And I think for us as well, like we feel like we have to assimilate and not take our spaces, but we need to not do that. We need to accept who we are and just allow ourselves to be a cultural place.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, if we can't do it in Dearborn, where can we do it? Literally.
Yeah, exactly. We have to that.
I mean, I feel like everybody needs to have the energy you have, because if they do, all our problems would be solved.
It was like my first city council meeting, and I got so upset.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really disheartening in itself, because it's also one of those things where you want to be able to see people that look like you behaving in a way that you feel like represents our identities. And when that doesn't happen, it's just, I think it's just disappointing. It's disappointing, and it lacks any sort of ownership. And it's not what our community needs, like, at all. Like our identities are erased as it is too. Like you were talking before about how we don't have a census box. Like that is the biggest disservice to our community.
Yes, we were behind on so many things because of that issue. And when we try to assimilate, when we try to lose that, we're just putting ourselves behind as a community.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a question somewhere in here. Okay. So Rima asks, how does our Arab community embody anti-blackness?
Ooh, it's literally with just one word. You guys all know the Ayn word. That one Ayn word. And colorism. I'm someone that's like, for Arab, for a non-black Arab, I'm considered darker. I remember when I was growing up, I was constantly annihilated and constantly ostracized for the color of my skin. And we had standards of beauty that don't fit in with what I look like. And just like literally, I have flashbacks right now just popping up in my mind as I'm talking about it. But it's excluding people that are darker. It's excluding them when it comes to Arab fashion. I constantly see this, like whenever we go on, like, what's that one website? Modanesia. If you go on Modanesia,
Like, all of the models are pale hijabis. None of them are someone that looks like me or built like me. And it's just like in representation. And we're starting to see a lot more Muslims in shows, a lot more Arabs in shows. They constantly aren't someone that looks like me or even darker than me. I would love to see someone darker than me. That would be chef's kiss. But when like Aladdin came out, we saw like a half white Indian girl as a half white Indian girl. Like, yeah, they were put on blast for it, but it was something that people still went and watched. And if a little girl goes and watches that, she's a little Arab girl going and watching it. What's that going to do to her self-esteem? So just that ostracizing people, those microaggressions that we have against people, colorism, just all builds up against Black people. It's just like colorism is like the daughter of racism. So it just all, children of racism building up against Black people, really.
Yep. I think it's when we talk about colorism, our community is just like, we never want to, because it, like you said, it's the daughter of racism, and talking about racism is scary too for people in our community as well. And it's these are the conversations that we need to keep happening. And so I think my question for you is, what would these conversations look like, and how do you think that we need to move forward as a community to even address it?
What would those conversations look like? I think it really depends just on self-reflection, just dismantling that Eurocentric standards of beauty in your own head. So I took like an implicit bias test just to see my results, and just taking that implicit bias test, realizing what bias you have against other people, and working to recognize your thoughts. When you literally just see somebody, recognizing why you thought the way that you did, recognizing what you could do better to not think that, and just dismantling it in our own selves before asking other people to dismantle it is the biggest challenge.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I think it's that too when we talk about like Dearborn as a whole, where we want to do the internal work and then be able to really grow out and kind of just be able to be the place that represents the Arab American voice. So I think like us doing that internal work is so important and so necessary moving forward.
Definitely.
Does anyone else have any questions for Zeinab? Yeah, hope you run for Congress or something someday. Yes, retweet. You know what's funny? It's like, I feel like you are the perfect person that like I always say that I love Bernie fans because of the fact that I feel like one day somebody is just gonna run and just like see everything.
We're seeing that happen already, and I love it. Like all over Twitter, we're seeing all these people endorsed by Bernie that are winning.
Yes. And you were what it looks like to me.
I literally have Rashida's literature from 2 years ago.
Oh my.
Right there.
Oh my god.
Like, we love electing the first Muslim congresswoman.
Yeah, she's amazing. So another question, what are you hoping to do after high school?
I'm gonna follow in Yasmeen's footsteps and possibly go into public health, like queen. But yeah, really public health or pre-law, and just continue into law school. But I don't see myself running for Congress, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
No, I feel it. I feel like Zeinab and I had this really long conversation yesterday about her, not like long, we had a conversation yesterday about your future, but it was interesting because I feel like you just care about so many different causes too, and just like public health is just such a like perfect avenue for you.
Yeah, honestly, it started with like Abdullah Hamoud. He went to the University of Michigan for a public health conference, and he like brought up Michigan. He brought up Dearborn, and he said he like made a scenario of two different girls, one a Yemeni refugee in South Dearborn, and another one a white little girl named Mary versus Mariam in West Dearborn, and it wasn't something that was ever heard. Ever, I think, to me at least, not ever, but like to me, I'm sorry. And when I heard it, it just like really broke my heart, because this is another part of racism that forces these refugees to come and live in Dearborn and live in places that kills them. You have people that, like neighbors in line, that have breast cancer in South Dearborn. You have PM particles coming out of corporations that carry COVID that hit these brown populations in South Dearborn. Like after I heard that story, I just knew that this is something that I'm passionate about, and I just got into work into climate, and I joined like Clean Air Council, Michigan Youth Climate Strike, and I'm hoping to go forward and just become like something that could change something in Dearborn.
No, I mean, completely agreed. When we look at environmental racism, Dearborn is like the perfect case study in the saddest way possible. And then when we also look at health overall, it's like only 20% is clinical, and people don't know that. Everything else is socioeconomic status, where you live, where you go to school, the food you have access to, the air you have access to, and all of those things too. So there's so many factors that aren't often considered. And then there's the whole idea too that the healthcare system is inherently racist. And even everything you were talking about with like mental health services as well, there's a reason why Arabs don't feel like we can come into contact with mental health providers or even healthcare providers too, because cultural competency is not a thing that's emphasized. And that's like, it goes back to why we need a census box. And I think that's always the thing we're coming up with.
Definitely, yeah. But just like, I think if you start in the schools, you can change it for future generations. So this is why the Trauma-Informed Schooling Initiative that was started by youth is so, so important.
Yeah, exactly. I want you to know that the whole community is behind you with this and like everything you're doing, and you really, honestly, like we're so lucky to have you.
Shut up! Sweet.
Thank you for coming on. And thank you so much for doing this.
Of course, yeah. I'm really hoping that everyone can just go sign the petition, do what you can, and literally just start anywhere if you want to get involved. 2 years ago, I did not know about this like public health crisis in our community, but after 2 years, I was able to like get involved and actually try to make change. So you can start from anywhere and just keep going.
You're right. Honestly, you can start from anywhere at any point, and the sky's the limit.
Thank you so much. I really had so much fun.
Me too. We'll do it again.
Okay.
Oh, wait. I think, do people have questions before I let you go? You were so amazing and insightful. Good job. You are getting just like massive hype up. Well deserved though.
Shucks. I really don't know what to do with myself right now.
Hey, you deserve it. Awesome. All right. Well, if nobody, wait. Rima has a question. She said real.
Oh. Yes,
anyone else? If you guys have questions too, really want to see this again. Okay. So this is a really good question. So what?
Oh my God, I literally have it right here. Carceral Capitalism.
Ooh, I haven't heard of that one.
It is. I randomly got it at like a bookshop in Ann Arbor. Okay. It talks about what municipality. It's a very, very hard read. You have to sit there and annotate so much, but if you read it, you would literally become like enlightened. Yeah. So it just talks about what municipalities did after the 2008 recession to keep brown people and black people incarcerated to make money for their municipalities, because municipalities became a business, sort of. So OMG, I was there when you bought it. How do you spell it? Okay, I'll just like, it's backwards. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Carceral, carceral, like incarceration.
Okay.
Capitalism by Jackie Wang.
Okay.
It's like $11 online. Yep, you got it.
Awesome. Okay.
It's such a good read. I recommend it 100%.
Awesome.
And of course, the autobiography of Malcolm X.
Yup.
Of course, that's like a basic book, but I plug it in.
I literally think about that book every day. Like, no joke.
Oh my God, same. Literally same. Like I wake up and I think about it. Oh, Moonlight too.
You know what? I haven't. The movie are you talking about? I haven't seen it yet. Okay, I'm gonna have to watch it.
It's so good. It just like it reshapes storytelling for Black people, and it's something that like reimagines how people think of Black people. It was something that was never told before, and chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss. Yeah. You've inspired me. I'm gonna watch it this weekend and definitely look into carceral capitalism. But yeah, those are awesome. Those are really awesome resources too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and also good point. We're reading the autobiography later in book club, and so our next book club, shameless plug, starts sometime this month. We haven't come up with a date yet, but we're reading Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Davis. I don't know if you've read that one, but that one is also chef's kiss.
You have to do the whole.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. We will talk soon, and good luck with everything.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.